What's going on, guys? My name is Maurice F. Martin, and this is another episode of Interviews That Inspire. Listen, before we get into this interview, I am looking for more people to interview for future episodes. If you know authors, musicians, actors, pastors, preachers, if you know people that I have not thought about yet and have not brought on this show, let me know who you'd love to see. Just do me a favor, leave a comment down below. Who should I reach out to and try to bring on my show in future weeks? Also, if you are a person that I should be considering yourself, make sure you kind of say, hey, me, you didn't think about me, you didn't ask me, and I'd love to be on the show. I am going to bring other YouTubers on as well. So if you're a person who is really a motivational person, inspiring in your story or in your message, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Just because I know you doesn't mean I thought about bringing you on the show. I started kind of with a small list of people in my head, and now that I'm branching out, I want to make sure I bring you on, okay? So guys, make sure that you let me know who I should have on this show. And speaking of who I have on the show, the next guest is Lindsay Titus. Now, Lindsay is an incredible inspirational speaker. She owns a company called REDEFINE YOUniversity. She actually started off as a teacher, and she was working with kids, and she realized that part of her true gift was providing inspiration to other teachers. And so she redefined herself, redefined her passion, redefined her purpose in life. And I think that you guys are going to get so much out of this. The first couple of interviews that I did were all inspirational speakers and motivational speakers, and Lindsay goes right in that list. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this interview. You guys are going to be blessed by it. I know that. Be sure that you leave your comments down below. What inspires you? What motivates you? What makes you think? And then share this interview with somebody that you know needs to hear it. Finally, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? I just got over 500 subscribers recently. I thank you guys so much for all your support. And if you're somebody who's been enjoying the content, or this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit subscribe and then click the bell notification so you can see future episodes. I just said a whole lot, didn't I? You just ready for me to get into this interview? All right, here we go. Hands of praise, lifting, lifting. Listen, have you been feeling like you have lost sight of you? It's a real question. Sometimes we go through these stages in life where we kind of lose ourselves and then try to find ourselves again. And we have to figure out how we're going to define ourselves in that season of our lives. And I think that Lindsay Titus is the perfect guest to have on at a time like this. She is in the education world, and so she works specifically with educators, helping them to define themselves. But I think you're going to see that these words that she has are truly global messages that everyone needs. So without further ado, Lindsay, how you doing today?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for that, for sharing that. That is so true. These words are, you know, my heart is for educators, but I'm not gonna lie, when I've had random strangers reach out and say, your message is what I needed to hear. So I truly believe that it's really, if you're a person, this is gonna align with who you are.
That's good. That's so good. So let's really get into that. So you are an inspirational, motivational speaker. That's really what I see you as. I've watched a couple of your videos and I was like, yes, that, and that, and that, and then you learned how to apply it to a specific group of people. So I guess what I want to start with is, you know, how did you get here? How does a person become an educational coach? Obviously, you started as a teacher, but what drove you to want to actually help other teachers, inspire other people, other teachers, and just really motivate other individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it still like boggles my mind when I hear like Lindsay Titus, inspirational speaker, because, you know, as cliched as it, that wasn't my goal. My goal was to truly redefine who I was. I had lost all sight of who I was as a person. I didn't know who I was, and that stemmed all the way from who I was as a kid. You know, I always thought that confidence and this belief in who you are was something you were born with or you weren't. And I quickly fell into, well, I just don't have it. I'm just not a confident person. I'm shy, I'm reserved, and that's okay. And I hid behind that for so long, and I just let that become who I was. Well, then fast forward, and I entered into the education space, and you can be a quiet, reserved educator, but I was working with some really tough kids, and I was working with, kids with challenging behavior, and I couldn't do it. And so I kept trying to find something and find maybe this strategy will work. Oh, I'll reach out to that person, and it would work for a short period of time, but I was going home in the tears and the frustration because I was like, why am I doing this? What is the purpose? And, I would see my other friends like so excited about their job and so excited about their life. And I was just like, is this really it? And I got to that point where I said, I have a choice to make. I have a choice to live behind these labels and these words and all of these identities that I thought were true, but really weren't. They were simply made up. And I got to redefine who I was. And I went through this 2-year self-love, self-transformation, truly transformational journey. And when I got to, not the end, because I'm still on it, I think we're always on that journey, but when I got to where, I said to my personal coach, I said, I'm owning who I am. And she goes, you're there then. She goes, you have stepped into who Lindsay Titus is, who Lindsay Titus gets to be. She goes, and now it's your turn to teach it. Because once we learn something at that level, we can then teach it. And so naturally and organically, I started to share my story. I started to share with educators. And in all honesty, they started reaching back and they said, I want what you have. I want the transformation for myself that you had. And ultimately what I learned is that what I did is I defined who I was from within, not by any role that I served, which is what Define University really stands on. Is we all have several roles. We all have several things. I could name 10 right now. I'm an educator, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, but I'm Lindsay. Before any of those, I'm Lindsay. And when we can step into who we are beyond or before any role, then we're living into who we are, and life gets to be easy and fun again. So that's kind of like the quick version journey of it, but I couldn't do what I was doing. And I figured the one thing I haven't done is I haven't looked within. And the moment I did that, everything else just kind of fell into place.
Imagine that, when you think that all of your answers are out there somewhere, and really all of your answers are internal. And, I was listening to, especially the last part of that when you said, I'm an educator, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. Those words are so loaded. And what we do is we take the word and put the word itself into a box. So if Lindsay Titus is an educator, well, technically, you're still an educator, an inspirational, motivational speaker, an educational coach who walks up to other teachers and helps them to find a healthier them. That's education. And so what happens is, because we think that these words only mean one thing, that father only means one thing, that husband, wife only mean one thing. No, they're loaded words with a lot of layers. Have you really peeled back the layers to try to figure out what the word means specifically for you? And I think that that's sounds like the whole point of your company, and the whole point of your approach is trying to help people figure out, what does teacher mean to you?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it again sounds cliche, but if we don't know the why, we get stuck on the how and the what. And I think what often happens is we will be really quick to say, well, I know my why. I know why I went into teaching. And I'm like, but it's deeper than that. What is it that's in your heart? What's in your soul? What is it that gets you going to work every day, doing the things you do? It's more than I just knew I always wanted to be a teacher. For me, it's giving students a voice that never had a voice before, whether that be working with a student who is literally nonverbal and giving them a source of communication so they don't have to use behavior anymore to communicate. They get to communicate in a way that's understood. Or maybe it's the quiet student that doesn't feel validated, doesn't feel heard, and how can we inspire that student to share their voice? Maybe it's through a picture, through a song, or through a simple text message. I have connected with so many people using so many different ways, but we have to know the why. We have to know what's that inner purpose of why we do what we do. And then, in all honesty, the how and the what, they come organically, they come naturally. But when we focus on those first, well, here's how I'm going to do it, here's what I'm going to do, that's where I lead to like the merry-go-round effect. I say where you're going to take action, you might go up and down a little bit, but in the end of the day, you're simply spinning in circles, and that's when we feel overwhelmed. So when we know where we're going, we have that defined purpose, no matter what, then like you said, those labels, those heavy identities don't feel so heavy anymore, because no matter what role I show up in, I'm showing up as Lindsay. I don't have to be a different person for every role that I serve. I'm me. And that's the moment I could say I'm me and feel so confident behind that was the moment that it all just became easy, and I became free, which was always the word that I wanted. I wanted to have, I wanted to feel free in my body, in my mind, in my thoughts, in the language. And once I was there, there's no stopping it. And I love sharing that with people because it's in everybody. It's not just, I'm not special in that regard. I know I'm unique and different and I'm my own person, but it's available to anyone when we're ready to say, this is what I want to do.
Mm. So there's somebody watching this video right now. They're not a teacher. They're not from the education field. They're from some other walk of life. But the words you're saying are already hitting because they have, for some reason, they've maybe disconnected from their why, or their why is no longer relevant. So they know why they used to, but not quite sure why they do now. And on top of that, they're not sure who they are anymore. So the I am this person, they've kind of like, it's become a blur. Where does a person like that start? How do you recommend the beginning of that journey?
Yeah, so I think that the easiest thing that or where I always say to start is, because I always want people to start easy and simple, because if we make it hard, we make it complex, we're not going to do it. So we start easy and simple. And the resource that I think we all have that we do not utilize enough is the language that we use. So some people will jump to the thoughts we have, but if you are like me, if you're watching and listening and the thoughts in my head were so crazy. We often hear of like one inner critic. I think I had 10 at one point in my life, where it was
Congratulations that you're saying past tense, because I'm still crazy. Let's be clear. I still got a whole lot going on.
It would be like these arguing matches in my brain. And so I always go to the middle. So I think there's the thoughts we have, there's the words we speak, and then there's the words we write. And I think the words we write are the most powerful because we're fully like embracing them. So I always say, go to that middle ground, listen to the words you're speaking. If you find yourself using, there's 3 key phrases. If you use I need to, I have to, or I should, that's where I want you to start. Because when we use that type of language, we are what I call, we are in shouldville, meaning we are doing something because we think we should, not because it's what we actually want to be doing. Because, so if I say I should, I'll use this super example. I should do my dishes today. Well, says who? Says who, does my sink?
My wife says we definitely should do the dishes today. My wife says.
Yeah, unpack that a little bit. Well, who says? Well, I do, because I have this belief that if someone came to my house and saw dishes in my sink, they would think that I don't take care of my house. That's crazy. That is not true. People that come to my house, they're gonna think, oh, she's got dishes in her sink. That's pretty normal, actually. It's pretty natural. But we make up these stories. And so that in and of itself is a whole course that I teach. And so when I say start simple, listen to the words you're speaking. And if you say I should, simply ask yourself, well, says who, or who says? And then if it is something you are passionate or you truly want to do, just switch it to a I choose, I get to, or I love to. Because the power behind those words are then going to create the momentum to the actions that you take. So there's a growth cycle of thoughts and feelings and actions. And so when our language matches our thought, or when our thoughts match our language, match our actions, we have trust in who we are. Because what I think is what I say is what I do. And at the end of the day, when you can trust in the decisions you've made, that's the first step. And so it's breaking that down into actually, one, listening to the language you're using, and then making those simple swaps for what are you choosing to do? What do you get to do today? And what do you love to do? And that way, it's coming from you. It's not coming from a place of I need to do it for someone else.
That's great. I'm about to say something. You can feel free to steal it. But I literally did a workshop on Tuesday, I did a workshop. And I talked about the importance of overcoming your should with your yet. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in should, and should leads me to anxiety, but the word yet leads you to hope. I should have done it. I just haven't done it yet. And all of a sudden, it's like it takes a little bit of that weight off. Yeah, maybe you should be successful. Maybe you should have more money in your bank account. Maybe you should have a happier marriage, or maybe you should have lost that weight. You just haven't done it yet. And so if you can embrace the process of getting to the yet, your whole life changes. And so I love what you said there, that you have to pay attention to language. For the last couple of years, I have been a group counselor. And one of the biggest things is, you speak to the people and then you let them give feedback. And I'm so quick to say, did you hear what you said? And, well, that's not what I meant. You did mean it because you said it. And for you to take the words and embrace them enough to give them to the world, you owned the words. And sometimes we don't like how our words sound back to us, which is the whole point of repeating them. And so one of the most important things, I think, when you said you got to write it down. You got to write it down or speak it out loud so that you can truly understand where your mind is at. Some people don't want to write it out loud write it down because it's too concrete almost. I don't want to write down my feelings. Then people will really know how crazy I am, or I'll see it for myself. Well, maybe that will be the most calming, focusing moment that you have when you write it down.
Yes, it's so true. And I think it's even kind of taking what you were saying is redefining what those things can look like. I think, again, we so quickly fall into that box of, what does success look like for me? What is successful? How do I know I've been successful? And, I think even, to a year ago when I started my business, sure, I had thoughts of what, 1 year in, what success would look like. Yeah. When I did my reflection this month of, do they match? Are they aligned? Are they different? It came from a sense of, yeah, they're different. Some are aligned. I did this, I didn't do that. But not one time did I say, well, I didn't do that, and therefore my business failed. I didn't do that. I should have done that. And I create new definitions for success, not through a lens of excuses, not through a lens of, well, it didn't happen and that's okay, but through reality, what did happen? Staying out of the what ifs and really bringing it back into what is present today, because that's all that it's all that I really have control over. And I just think it's so important when we can slow down, bring it back. What did I say? Is that what I meant? Do they align? And if not, it's not a bad thing. There's no right or wrong. It's, wow, I've got some work to do. I've got some inner reflecting to do. What do I really believe to be true about that? And then how do I share that with the world? Because at the end of the day, you're exactly right. What we say is what we say. And it's one of the reasons I love live video, because you get what you get. And, I see so many people, well, I need to redo it. No, it's a one and done. You said it, own it, and then grow from there. Aim to be better tomorrow than today. Go ahead. Right? We only do that through reflecting what we did. We actually have to do something and move forward from it. If we stay hidden, which is what I did for years, we stay hidden, we stay safe, but it's not a lot of fun. And so for me, when I was able to say, you know what, I'm ready for people to see me and all of me and the highs and the lows and the laughter and the tears, then you're going to get all of me, because at the end of the day, that is who I am. I'm not hiding behind it anymore. Now I'm owning it and I'm letting it shine. And that is what I want everybody, educators and non-educators, owning is who you are. Because when we step into that, you make decisions quicker, you save time, you save energy. In all honesty, you save your own sanity. And for me, that's when life became fun again. That's when life became something that I looked forward to instead of something that I was just exhausted from every single day.
So take people behind the veil a little bit. It's so tough to listen to a person like you or a person like me talk, right? Because we say openly on the camera, I'm a work in progress, I'm still figuring this stuff out, I'm still evolving. But because you have a gift of speaking, you sound like the polished, pristine, finished product. And a person who is struggling, they can't see their self in you. That's one of the hardest things for us to break down, is that invisible barrier. You just talked a little bit about success. What are some of the things in your life that have forced you to rethink what success looks like? And then in the recent weeks and months that you've had, what is a moment you've had where you've had to again redefine it? A moment where maybe you have been disappointed, frustrated, upset, felt like you didn't reach the mark, and then how you have redefined that moment. Give us a little bit of a real life what that looks like so a person can really relate to that.
Yeah. So I'll start out by saying I was in 5th grade. I had a behavior support plan to actually talk in class. So I was so quiet back in the day, and I have family members that remind me of this all the time because they see, they see my podcast, they see me go live, and they're like, "You remember who you were?" I'm like, "I do." I go, and that person fuels my fire every day because I don't want other kids to have to walk around with an index card and mark on the paper how they speak out, because what I realized is my voice is deserving to be heard. It's just I wasn't sharing it. I didn't have a way in my classroom growing up as a kid to share it in a way that aligned with me. I'm, and so I had to really learn and to be confident in standing behind my words. And so that then looked at, I just started sharing things, and I just started, doing little things and building from there. And that's what built into the business. But I'll give an example. So when I started Define You, I created a signature course, as many, coaches do. And I knew I wanted to do this hybrid of one-on-one coaching, but also group coachings. I believe in the component of community and learning from one another. And I set a goal last year that I would have 30 educators through the program in the first 6 months. Well, that time frame came and happened, and I had 15. So I had a decision to make. The 6 months were over. The 6 months were there. I could simply say, well, you know what? I didn't meet that goal. It was a fail. It wasn't, if I failed, it was not, I wasn't successful. But and I'm not going to lie. I had that moment. I had that thought of like, man, but then I took a step back. Sometimes I think we just take that literal step back and say, but what did I accomplish? And I have hundreds, if not more, of quotes and texts and emails and things that people have shared on how those 15 educators' lives were changed because of that program, and how then head into this pandemic, and they don't know how they would have survived, how they would have been who they are without the tools and the support that was provided through that program. And that's what I remind myself of. That is how I define how successful this program has been, not by the number, but by the energy, by the testimonials, by the expression, by the conversations I have. Because at the end of the day, I do believe in the power of how one person is enough to make that difference and that ripple effect. If I've taught 15 educators, I've actually taught hundreds of educators, because they all have friends, they all teach students, they are all now utilizing the tools that other people are learning from. So at the end of the day, that program was more successful than I think I limited it in the beginning by putting a number to it. And instead, it's now expansive. It now gets to be, no, you know what? Every educator that I reach, no matter how, is so crucial. But knowing that when we take the time to invest in these containers, these communities where we can really dive deep to then get higher in life is so important. But I think, hopefully that kind of answers your question, but I think it was really just redefining what that got to look like and making sure goals are great, but sometimes I think goals can limit us and they can hold us back. Because what does it mean if I didn't get there? Does that mean that I throw away everything I did to get there? One of the things I use in schools is praise effort over end product. Because the effort you put in every single day by showing up, by taking the steps, by owning your mistakes, that to me, as an educator, as a person, is so much more worthy than the end product that is what people see. They don't see the blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes, but we do. We experience it. So if we don't love it, if we don't own it, if we don't grow from it, then it does become a thing. And I'm about transformations, not about that thing at the end.
That's good. Transformation is not just the end product. And the key to your transformation that I heard, you said 2 words, but then. But then, that's the moment that leads to true transformation. It's not your plan. It's not the start of the process. Of course, you have to come up with the courage to start. But it's when you hit that adversity and you say, okay, it doesn't look like I thought it would. I haven't accomplished what I hoped to. I haven't progressed to the area of my life that I really was dreaming about. But then I figured out how to adjust. But then I sat down with some of my friends and I was reminded about what mattered. But then I sat down and said, okay, well, does the start of my year have to define the end of my year? But then I asked myself, have I been as healthy in the first half of the year as I needed to be so that I could teach health to other people? When we have the but then moment, that seems to be the true catalyst for transformation. How can a person truly grow and mature if you're never stretched? And stretching is always going to feel a little bit like pressure. And it's always going to feel like you are at the end of yourself, because how can you stretch without being the end and pulling it a little farther, right? And so when I listen to people talk, people who are inspirational like you, I listen for those little words. And when you said, but then, I was like, yes, I need to have more but then moments in my life. Those are the transformational moments. And I thank you for sharing that. You said, so 5th grade, they were like, little girl, this talking thing is not working out for you. We're going to need you to work on this. Speak to somebody right now who has a dream, but they feel like for whatever reason, they're unqualified to do the dream. So it's like they got this feeling in their belly that they're supposed to walk into something in their life, but they're like, I don't have what it takes. They told me in the 5th grade that I can't talk. What would make me think I could speak to people? But I've got this disability, and to me, it defines me. Talk to that person. How do they redefine their self, and how do they consider their self more worthy of the very life that they feel like they're meant to live?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is who I was yesterday no longer defines me. It's who I show up as today. So our past, I think oftentimes we hear the word past and we think childhood. We think 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but I live in the notion that past is literally last hour is now past. It is gone. It is time I cannot experience again, and it is time that I experienced. So I look at it, I always utilize choices. I have 2 ways to look at it. I can look at it as something that's going to hold me back, or I can look at it as something that I'm going to stand strong on and say, you know what, it shaped me into who I am, who I'm showing up as today, because who I am today, the decisions I make, the language I use, the actions I take are what are going to build my momentum into tomorrow. So if you are holding on to a dream, I think know that dream, that calling that has come to you is there for a reason. We don't think of things, no day, no time or place have I thought I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Actually, those 2 careers scare me to all get out. Why is it that, but there's other people that love being a doctor, that love being lawyers, that love being accountants, right? And for me, I'm like, stay away from the taxes. I can't do numbers. It doesn't work for me. So if you have that thought, the only person saying no is that inner critic in your mind. And you have a choice to say, is it something that you truly, is it something you truly want to do? And if so, believe in yourself to make it happen. And I know that sounds so big, but I think we can make it small by knowing if it's there, if you feel called to do it, it is there for a reason, because you weren't called to do something else. You were called for that. And the person you were yesterday, 5 years ago, 10 years ago in 5th grade no longer gets to say, well, we're going to hide behind who we were. Instead, we're going to own it. I think first we have to become aware. What do I want? Where am I? What's going on? But then we also have to accept who we were. And I love who I was in 5th grade, because she was a girl that cried at the drop of a hat. She was the girl that like sat in the back of the room, like, please don't see me. And I love her, because if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't know how much I wanted to change. It's not a need. I wanted it. I wanted to fall back in love with my life. So I became aware, I accepted who I was, and I love who I was. She served me. She brought me to today. I then acknowledge where I want to go. What do I see? What's the vision for Lindsay? Where do I see me going? And then I take action. And then you take the smallest action to take, because what ends up happening then is we stay stuck because we don't know how to get there. We see where we want to go and we say, oh, that's going to be too hard. I'll just stay where I'm at. I'll stay safe. We'll stay in that comfort zone. And we don't have to know all 10, 20, 100 steps. We just need to know one. What is the one thing you can do today? And I think the last thing with that is that I realized, you mentioned, stepping outside, taking that pressure, doing something new. I think we often, at least for me, I won't even make a generalization. For me, I always thought that was like a one and done. Okay, well, I'm going to step outside my comfort zone. I did it. I launched a business. I switched, not careers, but I've done a few different things in the education realm. But realizing once you step outside that comfort zone, you're just in a new comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So now I'm comfortable again. Mm-hmm. And where I am today is not where I'm going to be next year, because I'm going to go to a new level. I'm going to get uncomfortable again. I'm going to celebrate my success. I'm going to celebrate the comfort. I'm going to love it. But then I'm going to say, what's next? And then I'm going to say, but then what else do I get to do? And now what comes next? And now. And we just, I like stairs for that reason. We get to keep going up. There's no ceiling though. There's no like, you've met it, you're done, sorry. You get to keep going. And so that person that's holding on to a dream, I think tap in, do some reflecting, do some journaling on why it's your dream. What do you envision? Who do you want to be? What do you see yourself doing? And then do those 4 things. Become aware, accept who you were to get to, accept that it's a belief that's probably holding you back. It's not true. And if it is true, if it's not serving you, you still get to rewrite it, because we create how we live based on the rules that we create every day. No one else gets to write my rule, my playbook. There's no life manual. We write the playbook every single day by the mindset we hold, the language we use, and the actions we take. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I hope so. I really
I
think
tend to get going and I just start talking, right?
That's why I brought you on the show. I would hope so. Otherwise, I'm pulling teeth during the interview. No, right? I love for a person to feel comfortable enough to truly just walk in who they are and own the moment. Every moment that someone gives you a platform, I think you have a responsibility to be authentically you enough to say, look, you gave me the microphone for a reason. I'm gonna try to help somebody. And that's really what you're doing right now. And I think that this is truly going to bless somebody in a great way. And, I was thinking as you were talking, and I was thinking about the 5th grade you. I have a lot of weird concepts I don't talk about out loud, but I do teach them sometimes. And I don't say them in front of the camera, but I guess I will a little bit now. Sometimes when a person is grappling with what they've heard in their life about what they weren't able to accomplish, what they didn't qualify for, what they weren't good enough to be. And then now that you've got all these voices inside of your head, I think that a lot of times some of those voices are the voices of old you. So, for me to overcome 5th grade anxiety, I have to embrace me enough to tell 5th grade me she's okay. I have to sometimes heal her. I have to console her. I have to speak life into her. And then I have to let her know, you know what, you don't have to grasp hold of this moment. You can let Big Lindsay take over now. I got you. Mm-hmm. And that to me is when a person becomes whole, is when they slowly start to, I feel like every time you hit a milestone in life, what you said just now, you said you go from comfort to comfort, right? And so with every time that I get to a new comfort zone, I think there's another part of me that holds me back in that comfort zone. And I got to figure out which part of me is it. And then I got to work on stretching that part of me, getting more faith, more strength, more knowledge, more wisdom, more inner confidence, more self-esteem, more self-worth, more value. There's something I have to pour into that version of me so that then they break free. You told me that the biggest thing you wanted was freedom. Right. And sometimes I have to figure out what it is that's keeping me in bondage so I can get free. And that process that you just described to me, it walked people through it in so many different ways. And I just think that this is really going to touch people's lives in a great way. And here's where I want to end things, because I'm looking at my clock, so I know we're right up against the time limit here. So obviously, we want people to go find you, define YOUniversity. What is your website? How do they find you? And then what are the last things that you want people to make sure that they're thinking about, or the last takeaways that you want for people to kind of have in their spirit as they walk off this interview?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is Define University it's YOUuniversity.com. I'm pretty present on most social media platforms. So Facebook, Lindsay Titus. Instagram is Lindsay.Titus828. And then Twitter is just a little bit different. It's LTitus828. And, reach out. I love, connecting, and connection is one of it's built into my passion. I mean, as a coach, that is one of my favorite things to do is through connection. So feel free to reach out, and I would love to connect with you. I think the biggest takeaway I have is realize that, we've mentioned a couple of times through this process that if somebody is kind of feeling stuck and where do I begin, something I think is so important to mention is you're not meant to do it alone, right? So you are creating your life. Yes, absolutely your life. But I would not be the Lindsay that's in front of you if I had not worked with some amazing mentors and coaches that have gotten me through this point. And, I've had to in the last 2 years alone, I've had 4 coaches that have helped me through this process. I do the work, they do the coaching. So they shine, I love the analogy, they shine the light. They're not digging the hole for me. They're not creating the path. They're not doing any of that. They are shining the light for me to see what's possible for my life. So I'm doing it, but I couldn't do it alone. And so if you're feeling stuck, that first step, even if going in scares you, reach out then and find someone that's going to shine that light for you and say, it gets to be easy. It's going to be fun. There's going to be some work, but we can do it together. And I think when you know that you're not on an island all by yourself, when you are not isolated, when there are people, they may be virtual or not, that are there to guide you and support you and coach you, when you can find that person, it gets to be a journey, a true adventure, a true, process that you get to fall in love with because it's your life. So when it's time to take back ownership of who you are by defining who you are and loving the life that you're creating every single day.
Take ownership of who you are by defining who you are. I love that. I'm gonna have to write that down somewhere. That was good. That was so good. Well, guys, look, if you didn't get anything out of this, I would work on yourself. Like, I would really rethink some things in your mind, in your headspace, because I got so much out of this interview, and I truly hope you did too. Listen, down below you guys will find a link to her websites and also her social media. Be sure to check Lindsay out, especially if you are an educator. But even if you find her on social media, a lot of the things that she talks about, even when she's talking to educators, it's going to resonate with you just as a person, because she's talking about how to change your life. If there was a particular part of this interview that resonated with you, make sure that you leave a comment down below, click like, and of course share this video with anybody that you know needs to hear it. I thank you guys so much again for joining us for another episode of Today's Inspiration and Interviews That Inspire. My name is Maurice F. Martin, and we'll see you guys again soon.